All right, let's talk about one of the biggest ideas in all of science, the tree of life. We all learned about it, right? But what if I told you that the picture you have in your head, that ladder with us humans sitting right at the very top, is totally, completely wrong? Yeah, let's get into it.
So, when I say tree of life, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? I'm willing to bet it's that classic chart, the one that shows evolution as this straight line of progress. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It starts with some tiny blob at the bottom, then you get fish, then reptiles, then mammals, and then bam! Right at the top, there we are, humans. The end goal, right? The pinnacle of it all. It's a really powerful image. It makes us feel pretty special. But, well,
It's wrong. Just completely, fundamentally wrong. That whole ladder of progress idea, it's one of the biggest myths in science, and it just won't go away. So today, we're going to tear it down and see what the real tree of life looks like. And trust me, it's way more complex, way more beautiful, and honestly, just a lot cooler. Okay, so to really get why the new view is so revolutionary, we've got to go back and figure out where that old ladder idea even came from. And the story really starts with two absolute giants of biology who are looking at the exact same world, but asking totally different questions.
all right, first up, you've got Carl Linnaeus back in the 1700s. The best way to think of him is as nature's ultimate librarian. I mean, the guy saw a total mess and just wanted to organize it. He wasn't thinking about evolution at all. He thought everything was created exactly as it was. His job was to build a filing cabinet for life. Kingdom, phylum, class, all that stuff. That was him. His motto was basically, God made it, I'll organize it. Simple. But then, about 100 years later, along comes our detective, Charles Darwin. He looks at Linnaeus's super-organized filing cabinet and has this incredible light bulb moment. He realizes, wait a minute, the reason these groups exist, the reason we can even organize them like this, is because they're related. They're family.
And look at this! This is the actual moment it happened. This is a page from Darwin's own notebook from 1837, and with just this one little messy sketch and those two revolutionary words, I think, he turned a dusty filing system into a living, breathing family tree. It's just incredible. Suddenly it wasn't about boxes anymore. It was about shared ancestors, about connections, about a shared history for all of life. This was the real birth of the tree of life. But as you can probably guess, the story doesn't end there. So, for the next century or so, scientists are busy filling in Darwin's tree, comparing bones and feathers and fins to see who was related to who. But then, the 1970s happen, and the brand new science of DNA analysis drops an absolute bombshell that's going to completely redraw the entire map of life right from the very base of the trunk.
See, up until then, the world of life was pretty simple, at least on a grand scale. You had two big teams. Team 1, the prokaryotes. Think bacteria. Super simple, no nucleus in their cells, just tiny little bags of stuff. And then you had Team 2, eukaryotes. That's us and plants and fungi and pretty much everything else you can see. The complex stuff with a proper cell nucleus. Two big domains of life seemed neat and tidy. But oh boy, were they about to be surprised.
Okay, so fast forward to 1977. There's this microbiologist, Carl Woese, and he's deep in the lab analyzing the genetics of these little microbes. And he finds something that just doesn't fit, something that completely rocks the foundations of biology. He discovers that there aren't two main branches of life. There are three fundamental domains of life. So you still have your bacteria, the ones we know all about. And you've still got us, the eukarya, the fancy ones with the cell nucleus. But Woese found this third, totally hidden group. He called them the archaea. And here's the crazy part. You look at them under a microscope and you'd swear they were bacteria. They look identical. But when you check their DNA, they're as different from bacteria as we are. Just mind-blowing. These are the life forms that live in the craziest places on Earth. Boiling hot springs, super salty lakes, volcanic vents at the bottom of the ocean. A whole secret kingdom of life, hiding in plain sight.
And this really breaks it down nicely. The first thing you notice is that big split, right? Only eukarya, our group, has a cell nucleus. But check this out. This is the real clincher. You know how antibiotics kill bacteria? Well, they do absolutely nothing to archaea. Nothing. That tells you right there that their internal wiring, their basic machinery, is just fundamentally different. This wasn't just adding a new twig to the tree. This changed the entire shape of the trunk itself.
All right, so we've got these three enormous domains at the very base of everything. Now let's zoom in on our own branch, eukarya, and see how those old ranks from Linnaeus actually work. It's kind of like finding your cosmic address in the great catalog of life.
I'm sure you remember this from biology class, right? Some version of Dear King Philip came over for good soup. It's cheesy, but it works. This is the system that pinpoints our exact spot, taking us from the super broad category of domain all the way down to the super specific level of our species, Homo sapiens.
And here's how it works in practice. Let's take a human and a great white shark. Seems pretty different, right? But for a while, we're on the same path. We're both in domain Eukarya. Our cells have a nucleus. We're both in kingdom Animalia, or animals. We're even in the same phylum, Chordata, because we both have a spinal cord. But then we get to class, and that's where we go our separate ways. We humans are in Mammalia. We've got milk, we've got hair. Sharks, they're in Chondrichthyes. Their whole skeleton is made of cartilage. So you can see how each step down becomes a more exclusive little club, a more recent branch on the tree.
But here's the really mind-blowing part, and if you take one thing away, let it be this. Those ranks, they're not just labels in a filing cabinet. They are a timeline. The higher up the rank, the deeper in the past that evolutionary split happened. Just think about that for a second. The split between the domains, we're talking billions of years ago, the invention of the cell nucleus. Then we jump way forward to maybe 500 million years ago. That's when the phyla branch off. That's when things like the backbone first show up. Then around 200 million years ago, you get the classes, the first milk, the first feathers. And then it's only in the last few million years, a blink of an eye really, that you get the final little splits of genus and species. That's where we come in.
So there you have it. We've got Darwin's idea of a branching tree, Woese's discovery of the three huge domains, and this new understanding of the ranks as a deep time map. Now we can take all of that and finally throw that old ladder in the trash and see what the tree of life really looks like.
Let's just look at that old way one last time. You had these incredible drawings from people like Ernst Haeckel back in the 19th century. And they're beautiful, they really are, but they always put man right at the tippy top, as if the entire 3.8 billion year story of life was all just a prologue for our grand arrival.
Well, today's scientists have completely abandoned that idea. The modern view of the tree of life, it's a circle, or a bush. The very first common ancestor is a tiny dot in the middle, and time just radiates out from there in every direction. There's no top, there's no up, there's no finish line. And what this new picture shows us is something, well, it's pretty profound. Think about it. Every single living thing on Earth today, you, me, that mushroom in the forest, the bacteria in your gut, we're all on the outer edge of that circle. We're all the tips of branches that have survived, which means no species is more evolved than any other. We have all been evolving for the exact same amount of time, about 3.8 billion years. A bacterium is perfectly evolved to be a bacterium, just as we are evolved to be human. We're not the goal. We're not the top of the ladder. We are just one tiny, fascinating twig on this absolutely enormous, ancient, beautiful bush of life.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. If we're not at the top of some cosmic ladder, if we're not the grand finale of evolution, but just one part of this incredible, sprawling circle, what does that change? What does that change about how we think about ourselves and our real place in the world?